All right, welcome everybody. I'm excited to have Ryan with me today. Ryan Koral, founder of Tell Studios. What other credentials can you unfurl for our
Yeah,
listeners and
not a doctor
viewers?
yet.
Okay.
Co-founder of Studio Sherpas, which
Mm,
is kind of the reason why you're here
mm.
at our studio, and uh, new brand is in Roll Films. So I think uh, enough businesses, but those are the three.
You do a lot of video. How'd you get into it?
Started in sixth grade. My best friend Pup, his dad had a video camera, and we had a love for zombies.
Oh,
So we started making zombie films that were terrible.
wait, how old were you?
I think I was 12. Yeah.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we started playing. We lived in the country. He had 20 acres, lots of trees, ponds, just whatever. And had to do lots of things to be creative. And so that's where I started, like, I felt like making stuff. It
Mhm.
was like I was an artist. I played guitar, I drew, but when we started making these dumb little videos, I just loved it. It was like magic, even though it
Mm.
was terrible. And then fast forward, like through high school, I kind of had a video camera and film, like, just really dumb stuff, and never thought, because this was like back in the like 90s when everything was analog and there was no such thing as, like, what we have today where you just shoot it on your phone and you can edit it and produce something. But it wasn't until college. I was working at college, or I worked at the college after graduating, and I had worked at a summer camp for a couple of summers, and they were making these really cool recap videos. And at the college, I really felt like if we could make videos similar to what I was seeing, I really wanted to. And somehow I convinced my boss to buy me a video camera and a computer. And at that point, you could plug your camera into a computer and start editing and make stuff. And they let me start creating videos for the school, and I was hooked. And so I played for about a year with video at the school until I finally was like, I just want to do video. This is like, it's
Really?
too fun.
You never had any other like thoughts of like anything else you do professionally?
Man, I in college, I think I changed my major like 5
Oh, really?
times.
Okay.
I was all over the place, and a lot of what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to work with high school students, and then I thought maybe I could work with college students. I wanted to make an impact,
Mm.
and when I started like seeing what kind of videos, like we went to this church that like every single week they were producing these videos of these people's life transformation, and I would like bawl. Like,
Mm.
I'd see these stories of these people that hit rock bottom in their life, whether it was divorce or drugs or like whatever the thing was in their lives. And I was so moved by these pieces, and I just said, I want to tell stories like that. I want to like move people with the videos that we would create. And that's, my heart was set on doing that.
Did you ever think about going into like film, like actually directing movies?
No,
No? Why?
no, I think when I started doing video, it was so like run and gun.
Uh-huh.
Like, I was shooting a lot of events, and then eventually I would shoot like interview. We were doing like man on the street type stuff, and then I would like do this, like sit across from somebody and ask them their story. And that to me just felt more in line with how I'm wired as a person. Like,
Mm.
it's cool to like set up a beautiful shot and to get this like really cool cinematic epic thing, but at the end of the day, what I most cared about was telling like real, authentic stories. And people would always ask me that. They're like, "Oh, do you want to be like a Hollywood?" I'm like, I have zero desire to go to Hollywood. I have zero desire to do a movie like,
Hmm.
Batman or anything. It's cool. It's just like
It
no
was not
desire.
your thing.
No.
What movies did you like growing up?
Uh, Goonies, Star Wars, Dumb and Dumber, kind of all over the place. I'm easily entertained, I think.
I like Star Wars. I did not like Dumb and Dumber, believe it or
Oh,
not.
ugh. I
Yeah,
thought we
I
were
was like,
friends.
what? And then Goonies, I was like, what is this? This is dumb. But I was into like Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I was always more into like the serious, more serious stuff and more violent stuff. I don't know what that says about
yeah.
me. But like Star Wars was okay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Star Wars is great.
Right, right.
But like, I think you and I are around the same age. So then once like, that was like the golden age of like
Oh my
guys
gosh.
movies, right?
Jeez.
So like I love Braveheart.
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah.
like all those war epics. I loved The Godfather, even though I was too young
Yeah.
when it first came out. Then I
Right.
started rewatching them and like all those kind of movies.
Mhm.
And I did not, like Back to the Future was good, but I was like, not that. It's
You're
kind of
good.
nerdy or dorky or like,
Well, but
why
like,
isn't anyone dying or shooting each other? That's actually what I thought.
yeah, I was also a computer nerd.
Okay.
I think when I was 8 years old, we had a Commodore 64, and we subscribed to some computer magazine, and it taught you basic programming. Like it would have like all this code that, I would copy from the magazine. I would type it into the computer and would run this code on my computer. So for me, like stuff as nerdy as like Back to the Future, like I just liked computers and technology. And so when I got to start using video cameras, like it just added to this whole like gear and tech and get to like bring it all together.
So you'd help other people tell stories. So you're around stories all the time, whether the long form, short form, whatever. And one of the fascinating things about storytelling to me is that there's always a change. There's always some sort of shift.
Yeah.
It's either a becoming or it's a changing of mind. Now we're like middle-aged. I think we would qualify as middle-aged.
Oh,
Sorry,
man,
buddy.
it hurts to say.
I know it's true. It's true. Just got to go with it, right?
Okay, I'm gonna own it.
Sooner
Good.
you embrace it, the sooner you can move
Right.
forward, right?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
What have you changed your mind about in life? Like maybe that you never thought you'd change your mind about. Is there anything like that kind of in your own narrative? Just like, wow, I used to think this one thing and now I don't. Or I used to not believe this one thing and now I do.
Yes. The answer is definitely yes. And like, there's a lot of things. I think whittling down to like maybe one of the most important. I think when I started, what got me into video is I started believing and wanted other people to believe that their story mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think leading up to that, though, for a long time, I just felt like, I wanted to do important things with my life, but didn't feel like, what do I have to offer? And I think the older I get, being middle aged, it is pretty incredible to see what real, authentic relationships, how those can change your life and change other people's lives. And I think just really maybe hearing that and hear other people share, see people being married for 50 years and hear their stories and like, wow, that's cool for them. Or, see stories about guys that went to war together and they're 90 years old and they're still friends, but to actually experience that. I mean, I shared it at your event a couple of weeks ago. That community that I'm a part of today is like it friendship and authentic relationship has taken on a completely different meaning, one that I never knew could be possible. I've always had great friends growing up, but to be in relationship with people where they would give up, almost anything for you is like, I think has been life changing for me.
Do you think that like our stories really matter, even if they're forgotten, like immediately after we die? Like, not to be super morbid. Let me contextualize this, okay? I'll let me some context because you're probably what in the world are you talking about? So when I was growing up, I mean, we're around the same age, and there was such an emphasis on like, doing what matters and making an impact, which I understand, right? And I grew up very religious, and you did too. And so there's like that huge element of where I think a lot of that brought me out of living in the present because I was so focused on this thing called eternity.
Yeah.
Which actually, now that I look at it, is like kind of stupid. It's kind of silly. Like you're always living for a day in the future when one day this will happen or that will happen or everything will be perfect and I'll be fine. And so when I was young, I thought about that like an inordinate amount of time. And then it made me not like where I was. Like anything in the present, I just did not enjoy. I could not enjoy it, right? And I always thought something was wrong with me. And this has happened in our lifetime now, and we were old enough to know. Steve Jobs passes away in 2010.
Yeah.
This guy literally changed the world.
Yeah.
I mean, some people talk about changing the world. He literally changed the world, right? And he dies, and he's in everyone's keynote, in every business speech for like about 18 months. And then poof, just gone. He's gone. He's forgotten, right? And there are guys around our age, famous people who have died, like Kobe Bryant. He and I were the same age. Chadwick Boseman, the guy from Black Panther, he was a year older than me. He's gone, right? And I look at these people. I lost a friend when we were like 20-something years old. He died in 9/11. We were playing basketball together. And it's interesting, like how now that I look at stories, when we're alive, we think about so much about our story and how it's going to shape things and it's going to be this big thing. And then these people die like in our lifetime, and nobody really talks about them anymore.
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of gone. I think about how many famous people probably live, like, let's just say randomly, in the Aztec Empire. We don't even know their names.
Right.
They're just gone. Like, I'm not going to be remembered in the annals of human history. I think maybe unless I do something super drastic, who knows what
Still got
Mike
time.
can write. It's here it is.
You're
on
basically
the podcast.
1 foot in the grave though. You're middle aged.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. But we can still leave a mark. Right. So how do you handle that? Does that shape you in any way as a storyteller? Like when you're shooting a 30-second commercial for somebody, or like a 30-minute video for a university, do you view that different? Like, are you just like, okay, this is good and this is what they need for now? It's not going to be something that's just etched in stone, like maybe The Godfather in the Cinema Hall of Fame. Yeah. But how do you reconcile that?
I mean, I think what's most important for us here now is here now. And the choices that we make, the way that we are living right here, right now, this is what matters the most. We can have aspirations to live a different way and things that we're, longing for. And, there's plenty of things in my life. I'm like, man, I want to be better at this. I want to spend more time doing this, and, goals, dreams, things that I have. But if today's my last day, this is really morbid. I want to know that I lived to the full. Like I didn't hold back, in any of my relationships, and knowing that, if we're creating a film for somebody and, it's their brand story. I mean, brands change. I look at how my business has changed, over almost 2 decades. And I've changed so, like every year I'm just like, oh, I'm like, a little bit different. And then you add that up over the course of all this time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the things that I say and things I believe today and how I live out my life today is so different from when I first started my business. So that's one encouragement that I have for businesses is to say, like, don't wait until you've got all the things figured out to like tell your story and to start sharing what you do and how you do it and why you do it. It's like, why you do it today is probably going to be pretty similar next year to why you do it. Maybe over the course of 5 or 10 years, that might change, but like get this out today because this is all we have. And the story might change. Your story might change. It probably will change. But like, if you're not sharing your story, you're not embracing like the here and now, like, I feel like we're just like missing a huge opportunity to really live. Am I making that sound like way too big?
No, that's just what you're saying.
It's just what
Did you feel like your life was supposed to take a certain path and then anything surprised you that it didn't?
Oh, yeah.
Like what?
I remember distinctly when I was at this college, I'd started this like Tuesday night gathering. We called it The Offering. And I was like, leading worship, playing guitar, singing songs. And it was all these college kids. And then other community people were coming to it. And I just had this vision of like, there were probably 100 kids, 100 people that would come to this thing. And I thought it was great. But I had this vision of like, I really wanted to impact the world. And so I thought, I'm like, okay, like we're at 100, like maybe we can get to 1,000. And then maybe like one day, like I'll be leading like 10,000 people. And then I had a friend, older, wiser. I think he was middle-aged at the time.
So he was us.
He was us.
Okay.
Totally.
He's like, you dork.
He said, we're talking about Jesus. And he says, this guy, we're still talking about this guy's stories, his life, 2,000 years later. And it wasn't because he was talking to 10,000 people or 1,000 people. He had a relationship with 12 people. And he had an even closer relationship with 3 and an even closer relationship with 1. He's like, if you can really focus on like a handful, 1, maybe 3, and like pour into those people, love those people, and learn to like live life with those people, like think about like the impact that you could have. And that changed my perspective to think like, it's not about like whatever I was thinking, like, oh, my success is going to be tied to the amount of people that are, you know, come to this event, and, you know, maybe I could make a career out of this. I realized that if I really am caring about having an impact, which that was the most important thing, I went from thinking that it had to be thousands of people to like, oh my gosh, it could just be like 1. And that's enough. And that actually that changed the way that I thought about impact.
Have you ever been to Israel?
I have not yet.
Do you think about going?
Yeah, I will go.
I've never gone.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of photos, and you realize like most people don't realize how small the actual area is where all these stories took place. And to me, what's interesting about like being at this stage in life is that sometimes I'll go back to my old high school or drive by my old house.
Oh man.
And the memories were so big.
Yeah.
And then the place was so small.
So
and
small.
Like, wow, it's a lot smaller than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the memories are sometimes like that too. Yeah. It's like the memory of it or the story of it tends to be a lot bigger than the reality.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that way ever at all when you're like, okay, yeah, we could, like, let's say in like 10 years, we talk about this, like sit down and we're like telling your kid this, and it's like, it's going to sound this legendary story. Oh yeah, we were in our 40s, we were talking about Star Wars, and Mike was drinking a Truly on camera, and it's like so lame. And yeah, your dad wanted to make sure his sneakers were in the shot. And like, it's going to sound, oh wow, you guys did. And like, but we're just living this right now. It's just like, whatever. Like, do you ever feel like that as a marketer and a storyteller? And like, gosh, this is going to seem so much bigger than it really is.
Yeah.
And then you just end up believing it was that big. You ever run into that? No, I'm serious, because that happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Like as a marketer, as a guy who does what I do for a living, I can write things in a way that make these things just seem epic.
Yeah.
And you can stage it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is just a big dog and pony show. It makes me a little bit jaded in some ways.
Yes.
Like I know it has to be done.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is not reality, people, you know?
Yes. I have experienced that. I've seen that. I think we've probably made videos that have portrayed that, which I think, you know, at the end of the day, when you really understand like what you care about, like when you're able to articulate that, then it's like, you know, you paint the biggest picture or whatever, but like on a day-to-day basis, what does that look like? You know, and that's why, like, if I'm interviewing you to tell me like, what do you do? Like, why do you do? Like, why do you care? And how do you flesh that? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? And you're like, well, you know, I get to lead this mastermind, and, you know, I sleep until, you know, 10 o'clock. Like that's the reality. So I think if we can embrace, I love stories. I tell people, I'm like, sometimes I exaggerate because I get excited,
yes,
you know, but I'm not like inflating on purpose to like make people believe something that's not true. It's just like, the fish I caught was this big, right? But at the end of the day, I think that if I am true to like who I am, what I care about, like all of the, like, you know, the long-term goals, and it's like, cool. Like, yeah, like, you know, in our time together, it was epic, but yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm like, I'm going to start making stuff up here in a second and actually tell you I did catch a fish that was this big.
What is the worst client story you've ever had?
Oh. I thought of one, then I thought of another right away. I was like, this one. It happened over the pandemic.
Okay.
You know, the pandemic happened, and we fortunately had a couple of projects that we had filmed that weren't edited yet. So we had some work, not much, and then things started to dry up, and it was like months. You know, we received money from the government, so it's like, okay, we've got some breathing room, and then we got this call. This very wealthy, successful businessman wanted to do a video on this, like, you know, he owned this like medical device thing, and and he's like talking, he's pitching like a real big vision here. And I'm like, wow, this is like our first real opportunity that we've had since all of this happened. And there was something I just didn't really care for it, like how he was talking. And then we met with him at his office, and we met like 2 other people that he worked with, and the way that he talked to and these were like business partners. I mean, he just like, he belittled them. He was rude. He was like nice enough to us, but like, and I just knew, I'm like, we shouldn't take this job, but I'm like, we have to take this job. I know I shouldn't take this job, but we have to take this job. And we took it, and it was the worst decision. Like,
was he mean to you guys?
Well,
just difficult to work with?
Super difficult to work with. He dragged this project on. It was just like, when you like, he was kind of like the worst of humanity.
He's just a bad human.
Bad human.
Okay.
And it was a perfect example. But man, we were so pinched. But I know that had we said no, we would have been okay. But in that moment, there was like literally nothing. It felt like this was like the one thing that we had to. It's not that sexy of a story. It's just like, it was really, really difficult. And I think that we still owe him, like, he's got some kind of a credit with us. I'm not looking forward to the time that he calls us back and says, "Hey, I'm ready to finish this." Like,
now we have it on camera.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you ever, okay, let's say you have a situation that you're just like, I freaking hate this guy, or I hate this project, or what? Do you ever like do anything to like kind of like like spit in the food?
We spit in the footage. Yeah, we like you get
anything like that.
You see a frame of like saliva, but it goes like really quick. But people all of a sudden, they start getting.
Do you hate TikTok and short form video?
Yeah, I like to watch it. I like to consume it, but I hate thinking about making it for myself.
Do you hate the medium? Do you feel like it's cheapening video and storytelling?
I think it did a long time ago. And that's where I think I really started not liking it, because for the longest time we were the only ones creating content. And I say we, like my video company, the video company down the street. And, but as soon as the iPhone came out and people could start taking video with their phone and taking photos with their phone, what we were offering wasn't as unique and special. And that got really frustrating because the quality was really bad. And I don't know if you know this, but vertical video used to not be okay.
Yeah.
It used to be super annoying and super frustrating. So that's how they were shooting. And I'm just like, I give up. Like, I can't, I'm trying to tell people, like, don't do that. It's not helpful for anybody. You're never going to go to a movie theater and the screen is going to be, but here we are, on our devices. And that's what it is. Like, they've made apps, and it's vertical. So I feel like it cheapened the storytelling, the intentionality that we would put behind the films that we would create. And then after years of I used to post on social all the time. I used to, we had a blog, and then, Facebook and Instagram. But then when everybody was doing it, I was like, I just feel like it lost its luster for me. And so I think I started to just resent it. All these years later, I've kind of come full circle. I think the biggest struggle with me is I really want to be present with the people that I'm with, mostly my family, my kids. So I'll take photos of stuff and I'll take video, but then I also know that it's going to require time to be thoughtful and to post this. And I'm like, when am I going to do that? I'm not going to do that when I'm with my family. And I feel like I see so many people that's what they do, right? They capture this cool event and they're in the moment. And instead of living out the moment, they're like, putting on their story, whatever, really quick. And like, no offense, like if that's what you do, or that that has stuck with me for so long that I can't get out of that habit of like not doing that. And I can't find the time. Like, when am I supposed to do that? And then months go by. If you look at my reel, you'd be like, dude, you've been some incredible places and done some amazing things. And like, nobody knows about it, because I'm like, I have the intention of like wanting to share it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, when am I going to do this?
I do it kind of like at the end of the day. So I don't actually keep Instagram or TikTok on my phone. Most people don't know this.
Yeah.
I view it like a drug.
Yeah.
And what is the secret to any successful drug dealer? you don't get high on your own supply.
It's good.
Honestly, I'm like, people are
Yeah.
like, oh, you do marketing. Can you help us with social media? I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to use it.
Yeah.
At least the way that people normally use it. Cause I've been around so many people who are like that. They just record everything and then they like post it right away. I'm like, nobody really cares what you're doing right now. So I'll record it on my phone, leave it in my camera roll, and then I will literally re-download Instagram, upload all the videos, and blah, 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 do all the things, and then delete Instagram from my phone.
Yeah.
And it just makes me be really intentional. I can't go down the rabbit hole of, watching 100 videos. And next thing you know, an hour's passed and I haven't slept.
Yeah.
I think most people, business owners especially, who are like successful, like I think they do that. It just is at odds with being able to focus.
Yeah.
Like how can you get anything substantial done if you're looking at Instagram all day?
No.
When I look at Instagram and TikTok, YouTube less to an extent because I have YouTube Red, which gets rid of all the ads. I have that subscription. When I see the Instagram icon on my phone and I click it, I'm like, let me just opt in to watch a bunch of commercials. And it opens up. That's what it is to me.
Yeah.
Now, they might not be actual ads, but they're commercials for other people's lives, what they're doing, how happy they are, where they are, what they're eating, who cares, right?
Right.
Mixed in with a couple of actual ads, mixed in with sports highlights, and you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So you could watch this really sad video about like, puppies that need to be adopted. And then it's like LeBron James dunking on someone and then someone making fun of Biden or Trump or whatever. And you're like, cognitively, you're just all over the place. But you are a purist in storytelling. So what would you say, what would you say to people who are navigating technology invading their industry and disrupting it in that way? Like I'm facing that. A lot of copywriters are facing that with writing because of the AI tools, which I actually use all the time.
Yeah.
I actually think they're really powerful. But how did you navigate that? Like when these vertical videos were becoming all the thing and you're just like, gosh, and you just know you're not going to stop it.
Right.
Like, how did you navigate that? Throw things.
I'd apologize to a lot of people.
Okay.
And say, okay, it's okay. VVS. I don't know if you remember Vertical Video Syndrome. It was like a Muppet puppet thing. It was hilarious. It was so good. But I sent that to like everybody that would post or show me that, I'd see them
a vertical video.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're like very like,
I was so
like
against
snobby
it.
around.
But I mean,
no, I understand. I understand. I feel like that with emojis when people write with emojis. I'm like, are you serious?
Or all caps.
Or all caps or like whatever. But yeah, okay. So
it is very interesting because like literally within the last like 14 months, I have come full circle to just saying I need to embrace this. I need to embrace like micro content, micro stories, behind the scenes, the process, all of that. So I've always believed that the process is so much more interesting. Like we create these epic videos, documentaries, all these things. And the things that get the most views are when we post behind the scenes photos or behind the scene videos of the thing. And it's like, you guys, look, we spent so much time crafting this, 3-minute thing. And here you're like loving and commenting on this thing that was shot on an iPhone. What are you doing? But I'm beginning to understand that that's okay. That's just where we're at. So storytelling is always going to be valuable. Now we're thinking, okay, how do we just do those things alongside of each other? How do we work with a client to say, hey, it's very important for you to have your story told in a way. But while we're doing that, we're also going to have somebody filming the behind the scenes of us capturing your story. And for better or worse, that might get more views.
It's probably more interesting.
Right? That's more interesting. But the only way that you're going to get that is if you have somebody that's actually capturing your story in this kind of like real format.
I think there's a collective desire for people to know how the sausage is made.
Mm-hmm.
because if you think about the medium of video and TV and film, it's been a certain way for decades, polished and product, right? And there's a lot of mystery around it,
right? Totally.
And now it's like, now we want to know how it's actually done. I feel like that's going to happen more and more in all mediums, right? And yet there are certain mediums that we will never want that. Like we will always want great movies. We will always want great cinematography and to be fully immersed if we choose to be in a story. Do you grow up watching wrestling at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, please. Yes.
I don't know if you know this. I wrote my senior thesis in college on the WWE.
Oh man, this is awesome.
And my professor was like, "This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard."
Wait, he sounds like a wrestler.
He sounds like that. He sounds like that. And I really actually liked that class. It was called, I majored in American Studies, which is for people who cannot decide what they want to major in. So it was a mix of history, journalism, like literature. I took a class on maritime culture, like boating. I was like, what the heck? Why not? Right. And we had to pitch him on the thesis. And so I pitched him on the thesis and he's like, this is stupid. Like, I don't understand why you would want to write your thesis on this. I was like, because you're old and dumb. Like, you don't realize how many people are watching wrestling right now. This is like in the early 2000s, like late 90s, early 2000s at the peak, right? I'm like, literally, they are airing commercials on television during wrestling to go rock the vote.
Yeah.
And The Rock is telling guys like us, 20-somethings, to go vote. So that was during the Bush election, Bush and Gore, right? Year 2000. And he's like, really? He just didn't know. So I wrote this entire thesis on professional wrestling and how it's like this cultural movement. And this was my point. Vince McMahon from the WWF, now the WWE, is probably this generation's, or one of this generation's greatest storytellers. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, my gosh. The longest story ever, right?
The world of wrestling is fascinating because from what I can tell and what I've heard, like, and I didn't actually live too far from there. They're headquartered in Stamford, Connecticut. And they bring you in, you've got some talent. And they just kind of like ask you, do you have any special talents? Yeah. Like what he's literally doing personal branding.
Yep.
And he's finding out something about you and they're turning it into a character. Or he has characters and he's looking for a human being to embody that character. I just watched this interview with The Undertaker.
Yeah.
And he describes like going in to meet Vince for the first time. And he thinks he's going to get a job because he's invited to the guy's house. Yeah. He's like, all right, I'm going to get a job. And then he's like, okay, we'll call you if something opens and you didn't get a job. And then Undertaker's just like, oh man, I don't have a job. Like I quit my other company because I thought I was definitely going to get a job because I got invited to his house. And then a couple months or so later, Vince calls him on the phone and he goes, am I speaking to The Undertaker? And Undertaker's like, yeah, this is The Undertaker. He had no idea what an Undertaker was.
Oh my God.
Right. And so he's like kind of recounting the story because like I think he was being asked like who came up with that idea. Like, it was all Vince. Yeah. And he probably had the character written and he goes, he just needed a really big guy who had no emotion to play the part. It was great, right? Yeah. So it's like so all these storylines, like it's just story after story, character after character after character. And it's weird, like I feel like this era of social media and personal branding is just turning the whole world into professional wrestling.
Yeah.
What, if anything, from wrestling did you kind of take that like has impacted or influenced your life or like your craft? Like, do you actually think about that at all? Does it have any like ramifications?
Well, earlier today we were doing a DDT, which I think was that Jake the Snake. Was that his?
He did it on your kid
move, and then Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Yeah, I remember him.
The flying elbow, or what? No, maybe I
did the splash, the body splash.
Macho Man. Yeah,
you did that on your son this morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right.
Yeah. I'm not. I do think about it because it was such a, I just feel like we had the best childhood. I mean, Saturday mornings were like literally the best things ever invented, and wrestling on Saturdays. As far as like storytelling and how I think about it today, I'm not sure that I really do.
Do you ever watch something and you're like, you can like take it apart as to why they're doing this a certain way or telling a story in a movie a certain way? Like, what does the average person not know that you know?
Yeah. I remember when I first started doing video too, and people would ask me that, and I'd just be like, I don't know. I'm still just like, I just want to tell stories. There's nothing. But today, I look at lighting and, and now with Unreal Engine and all of the computer generated things, it's pretty fascinating to see that, and then to try to guess like what is real and what's not. But I think the thing that I care most about are, I love just regular movies, but documentaries are still like so fascinating to me. I don't know if there's anything that I really know that other people don't. I don't. It's like,
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, last question. What do you think is going to happen with all this artificial intelligence? And like, are we just going to start having bionic eyes and like have like a whole dashboard in our contact lenses and like what do you think is going to happen? Like, I'm fascinated by people who are in this line of work because we are actually more on the cutting edge of technology than most people are. Like, forget spreadsheets and ChatGPT. Like, dude, when you're talking about Unreal Engine and it's able to make video now that we can't tell the difference, like, where is it going to be in 5 years? Like,
well, we just watched the NFL football the other day. That was Toy Story in Andy's room. Did you see that?
That's crazy. It just like maps the game, but it's like it's like an avatar,
real time. I mean, and that was like V1. That was like their first stab at it. And I was like, that's like pretty cool. Man, it is mind bending thinking about it, because just in the last 3 months, like the voice stuff. I mean, like, it's creepy, it's crazy, it's so good, it's so like, we use like a AI for, if this audio is really bad, like we can throw this AI thing on it and it like sounds like amazing. Takes out all of. In Apple, they're coming out with their Vision.
Yeah,
it's a goggle thing. Yeah. Like, I don't know, man.
So would you do this? Would you like embrace it if they start putting stuff in our like cybernetic enhancements?
Cybernetic enhancement. Can I run like super fast and like
would you do
really
that?
Strong.
I think this is a very relevant, like, because we grew up watching that stuff in movies, and it's actually going to become very real.
Yeah. I did it. My favorite story is this watch that I wear today. When I was in kindergarten, a really long driveway, and I think Knight Rider. Did he have a? He could talk to Kit from his. So I would do that. I didn't have a watch, but I would talk to my wrist, and when I did that, it would like make me run faster. It was crazy. But I did have dreams of, as a teeny tiny kid, one day like being able to wear something on my wrist that had way more technology than just being able to tell the time. And I think like where we're at today, I mean, it is mind bending. I have no idea. I mean, things that we're able to do today, I would have never thought that that technology would be available. And then it would also be accessible to like people like you and I, that we could buy it and use it and create with it and manipulate it. Like I just, that's all. I'm speechless.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me today. This is good talk between two 40-somethings. That's all I wanted.
1 foot in the grave.
Yeah, 1 foot in the grave. Yeah, I'm going full robot if it comes out. Why not?
Why not? So if you do, I probably will too. And then we can arm wrestle or
whatever.
Leg wrestle.
Whatever. You play the video game Cyberpunk? Have you heard of it?
No.
Oh, yeah, you should check it out. It's like all about that. That's a very weird thing. Probably don't have video games because you have kids.
Yeah, we don't.
Can't have time.
We don't do technology at our house.
I see. All right. Well, this is Ryan, everybody. Thanks for coming on. No, seriously.
Thank you for having me.
Just good random convos about stuff.
It was very good.